Hello, everyone. This is Steve Palladino from Palladino Power Project. I'll bring you another video, and what I'll be doing here is using the SuperPower Calculator to do uh, a little bit of fantasy works, more or less, trying to figure out what a runner might have run with a little bit more optimal pacing. So this is a question that came out of on the Stryd community Facebook group, and the runner is has a 147 pound stride weight setting, and recently ran a half marathon and did incredibly well. Ran 120, 40 something, narrowly missing that 120 mark. And so the first the athlete had asked, "What do you think about the execution?" And so what I did here, and let me get this so you can see the whole thing. What I did here is I have the link to the file, and here it is, and it looks pretty. Power looks pretty good. There's a power heart rate there in the background, and then the gray is the race elevation profile. You can see that it's mostly uphill going out and mostly downhill coming back. So it looks pretty good, but here's how you can be a little bit more exact using your power center. So there's the whole race, and you see we have these scroll bars here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the scroll bar, and we're going to, actually I'm going to do it this other way. We're just going to come over here from the beginning of the race, and we're going to scroll. The total race is 21.31 kilometers is what was recorded. So that's about 10.65 kilometers is the halfway point in this file. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go to about there. And you can see 11.79. I'm just going to take this little tab here, and I'm going to slide it until I get to about 10.65. All right. And for this runner, that first half was run in 300.9 watts, 39.47. And we're going to compare that with the second part. So all I'm going to do is just drag this guy over here on the far left. I'm going to drag it all the way to the end of the file, leaving that one unchanged. Again, we're going to have about 10.65, 287.2 watts, 46. So the power decline in the second half. Actually, it was about a roughly about 5% decline in power. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take all those numbers, the overall and then the two halves, and I'm just going to transfer them. I've already done it on the SuperPower Calculator. So let's switch back to that. And what I'm going to do is come to the SuperPower Calculator and select the function calculate power metrics, running effectiveness, horizontal power, leg spring stiffness per kilogram, etc. I just want to look at that and tabulate that. So I select that function. I'll enter the weight, and notice I could also enter weight in kilograms, but the runner gave me the weight in pounds, so I'll just use that. And I'm going to go to the activities tab, and I'm just entering. So the overall was 120.45 was the file duration. 293.6 watts for 21.31 kilometers. Again, you can use these drop-down boxes, select your units that you want. And then I scroll over here, and here are the results. Running effectiveness overall was 0.999. That's pretty outstanding. I'm guessing that is a non-wind stride. If it's a wind stride, that's really exceptional. But even a non-wind stride, that's really good for a half marathon. So that's pretty good. Horizontal power ratio is 76.1%, which is okay. And leg spring stiffness per kilogram is 0.135, which is needs work basically. So then I also, again, when I did that work on Powercenter, again, I'm going to go back to that. When I do that work, and I select, like I said, I select the first part. Sorry. There we go. I'm just right click and drag to select that, right? And then I'll just fine tune this down to 10.65. And there you go. So you have, you're able to select and look at a particular segment. And here I'm looking at first half versus second half, and which is a good thing to do for a race. And so I did that, got the numbers, and then I get the second half just by dragging that guy over there, and we have the second half data, and I recorded that. So back to the SuperPower Calculator, and here's the first half. 300.9 watts, 3945, 10.65 kilometers. I did this earlier, and running effectiveness was 0.990. A little bit higher horizontal power ratio, a little bit higher leg spring stiffness in the first half. But then the second half, you can see power dropped by about 5%. Running effectiveness increased. Why? Because running effectiveness is sensitive to grade. So the first part of the race being uphill, it had a negative effect on running effectiveness, and the second part being downhill had a positive effect on running effectiveness. So you actually see that here. First part 0.99 and second part 1.008. If it was a flat course, you might expect the second part to be a little bit lower as well, because running effectiveness will also reflect fatigue. But you do see the fatigue element coming out here in horizontal power ratio, as well as in leg spring stiffness per kilogram. We can see that it declined, and horizontal power ratio declined as well. So there you have it. There's first half and second half, and so the runner, when I replied, well, you had a 5% drop in power, it would have been, you might have had a better overall average if these were a little bit closer to ISO power, or the same power throughout the whole race, or at least within 1%, plus or minus 1%, second half versus the first half. So what's the effect of having a 5% negative power split, meaning you're fading? The effect might be as much as 1 to 2% on the average power. So let's go and play with another function. And so that function, as we scroll down here, calculate predicted race time using target distance power running effectiveness. All right, so we select that. We're going to enter all these required elements, and we'll look for the result down below. So we know 147 pound stride weight, We know the actual was 293.60 watts. And we know the actual is 21.31 kilometers. And she had 0.999, which when I entered converts it to 1.00. And so the result for that is 120.44, which is pretty much what we had as the time outcome in that file. All right, so that's what she actually did. So let's go 1% more. 1% more, which 1% more is 296.5. I did this work ahead of time. I didn't just come up with that in my head. So 296.5. Just all I'm doing is bumping the average power up by 1% if she had executed with ISOPower. Now this is hypothetical. That's what we're dealing with, a hypothetical case here. How much faster could I have run if I ran ISOPower? Okay, so maybe you get 1% to 2% benefit there if you stick closer to ISOPower and don't fade. So this is a 1%. This is just testing out what 1% looks like. So 1%, same distance, same running effectiveness. Now, keep in mind, running effectiveness could have smidged up a little bit better with ISOPower as well, but we're going to leave it the same. All we're doing is modifying that power figure. So this is the outcome in time would be 119.57 instead of 120.44, 124.45. So the runner would have actually broken that 120 barrier for this race at this distance. So everything else being the same, just trying to get it to ISOPower and get that 1% better power because you're not fading 5%. You get this kind of time, 119.57. What if it was a 2%, which is, that's stretching a little bit, but let's just check. And 2% is 299.5 watts. I enter that. Same, everything is the same. What's the difference in the time? If we ran ISOPower and happened to be a 2% higher power, up to 299.6. Time would have been 1:19:09. So it's hypothetical, but it's pretty reasonable that that instead of that 5% negative power split, which is not great execution, if the runner run by power stuck to an ISOPower plan, or maybe even had a slight positive power split within plus or minus 1%. The runner might have had maybe a 1% to 2% bump in power and would have run somewhere below 120 for certain. So there you have it. This is another way of using the SuperPower Calculator. You could analyze first half versus second half of a race. You could also analyze hypotheticals. What kind of predicted time might have occurred with everything else the same except for a little bit higher power. You can play around with this on your own. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.